Hey guys, thank you for listening to the Pausing Porn podcast. My name is Mark. Today we're on episode 2 covering guilt and shame in your recovery. Welcome to the first real episode of regular content on the podcast. These are the type of episodes and formats I plan to do going forward. I wanted to start with guilt and shame just because of its prevalence in people's recoveries. It can be a factor that really holds people back from achieving better results or especially a quicker recovery. In my personal recovery life, this was something that held me back for not just a matter of weeks or months, but years, honestly. Well, let's get right into it though. I think it's really important. Knowledge is power. We'll clarify the difference between these two first, because I think a lot of people use them interchangeably, even though they're significantly different. So, guilt could be summed up as I did something wrong. It is generally about something that you have done. Refers to a behavior that you'd feel bad about. It's the result of an evaluation between the standards we hold for ourselves and how we feel our actions compare to these standards. So let's say, for an example, 3 days ago, you told yourself, that was the last time. I'm not watching porn ever again. I'm not touching it. I'm not thinking about it. And lo and behold, you get home from work and you end up going back to it. And right after that, that's when that guilt could come in. Because you have that standard for yourself that I'm not touching this again. But your actions and your behavior did not meet up to that. So it's just a sign that you've stepped off of your values. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It can act as a compass to guide your behaviors. And for shame, shame can be summed up as I'm a bad person. So shame's going to refer to something about your character or who you are as a person that you believe to be unacceptable. It's not about doing something wrong per se, but it's about the feeling you have when you perceived that you're not good enough in some way. So typically this could be the result of internalized negative beliefs on yourself. Could be formed from early childhood experiences of criticism or rejection, breaking personal or cultural standards, secrecy, isolation, or even unrealistic perfectionism. So clearly, they're two very different. I do like to sum it up in layman's terms as guilt would be I did something wrong, and shame is I am a bad person. Believe it or not, having this knowledge actually is really important for your recovery. When I was going through my recovery, I would be very active in certain communities with others, and it's something that would come across almost every single day, and especially for the people that were new to their recovery, just as in my journey. When I was new to my recovery, I thought shame was the way to change your behavior. And even still, when I go back to these recovery communities, you see a lot of people using their shame as a way to heal, which is a completely broken system. So I think starting with having the knowledge between what's the difference with guilt and shame, that gives you the ability to reflect in your life and your recovery journey where you could see these elements come into play. In my personal recovery, the shame spiral played a role for years and it really held me back. So I just want to share the process of the shame spiral. And you guys can identify, is this something in your life right now? Or if it's not, it's always good to just hear and learn about it so it's not something that could come up. The shame spiral is always going to start out the same way each time by acting out. You know the process, right? It's probably happened dozens, if not hundreds of times, like it did for me, where it'd be 3 days prior and you say you're never going to watch porn again. And lo and behold, you go and you end up watching it. Immediately afterwards, which would be step 2 in the shame spiral, you start feeling guilt for your actions. So, like I mentioned before, guilt is just the process of having your values and recognizing your behaviors didn't match up to that, which is completely okay. But for me in my recovery, and similar to a lot of others that go through the shame spiral, allowing this guilt to build into shame is where the harm comes in. So it's okay to feel guilt. It's okay not to meet up with your values, right? We're not perfect. But when you sit with that guilt and you allow that to go into, I did something bad, and build into, I'm a bad person, that is where the harm gets built out of. From there, in the fourth step, would be coping with the shame using unhealthy habits. So for myself, this would be isolation. When I feel like I'm a bad person, I'm not going out with friends and socializing and having a good time. I'm isolating, I'm to myself, and I'm sitting with that negative emotion that sits with you all day. That also comes with the neglecting needs too. So I'm not showing up for myself. I'm not taking care of myself the way I need to, right? Which is all crucial in your recovery. You don't want to be sitting at home all day and not being there for yourself. That's the opposite of what you need to do. And after that, of course, you go back to the same habit before, which is step one, acting out to avoid that discomfort. So the discomfort with the shame and the unhealthy habits, they build. And you go back to your coping mechanism that you started with, acting out. And this spiral will repeat and repeat and repeat. For my life, like that spirals repeated multiple times in the same day before, or it's went over the course of weeks and really stretched out. Even for myself early on too, when I reflect on it, I would think that I needed to feel shame to recover. Because in my head is, if I don't feel like I'm a bad person, then I'm comfortable with my actions. So if that's how you guys are doing it right now, and you fell into that similar trap that I did, I'm going to tell you right now, it does not work. Growth does not come from the belief that you're a terrible person. I'm going to save you guys the trouble because I learned it the hard way. It makes it 10 times harder to recover when you have that belief about yourself. I want to try to exercise with you guys to actually put some of the knowledge today into action and reflection as well. So to do this, I do suggest grabbing your journal or even a pen and paper if you don't have one. If you don't have any of those resources, that's okay. I strongly urge you, though, to get a journal. And I'm going to make a podcast episode on this specifically because I think journals are very important to have in your recovery. But let's start. So first, I want you to take some time and reflect on a recent relapse or a moment of struggle in your recovery for me. And let's start from square one. So note down what happened exactly. You could start from the beginning of the day. Did you work that day? Did you wake up tired? Did you wake up with a back pain? Did you get into arguments? Just reflect on what exactly happened prior to where you got to the point of relapse. Next, record how you felt immediately afterwards in the relapse. Like what thoughts were going through your mind? Did you feel guilt? Did you feel shame? Did you feel both at the same time? Did you do a self-soothing excuse saying, okay, that was the last time? How did you handle it? All right. And finally, how did the emotion you felt after your relapse, whether it be guilt, shame, other, how did that affect your short-term and long-term behaviors? That is it for the exercise and for the episode. So thank you for tuning in to episode 2. I'm actually getting these podcasts out ahead of schedule. I'm really enjoying making them so far. The next one should be out pretty soon, episode 3, which will be on the topic of secrets in your recovery. All right, bye for now.